Hello, I did my final project over an article titled Loss of Live Sports Changes ESPN's Marketing Plans, published in the Wall Street Journal on April 2nd, 2020. So, how the ESPN marketing team is adapting to COVID-19. So, the first thing the article talks about is new commercials and ads, obviously, with no live sports being played nonstop. For instance, the NBA and the MLB, ESPN's programming has drastically changed. So that means the marketing team has to change with that. So to promote unity and togetherness, ESPN did a big commercial called There's No Place Like Sports. And it's been played 10 to 15 times a day through late May. And this commercial is very powerful. It shows memorable, meaningful moments among sports teams, and it's what I took away from it was, a lot of us take sports for granted, and in a time like this, we need to realize how thankful we are to, have those players that we support and those teams we support, and it means a lot to, the American sports consumer when there's games being played, because we don't realize how much we really, really love it. And this was the final section of the commercial. It closed on this: ESPN, we miss it too. And I'm sure, everyone enrolled in this class and all sports enthusiasts can agree with ESPN here on this commercial. And I watched it several times and it really hit home. There's another commercial that ESPN did called the Dear Sports commercial. And this mentions, prominent ESPN figures such as Scott Van Pelt, Jalen Rose, Maria Taylor, Dick Vitale, and they're all telling their stories, when they got passionate about sports and how they became sports fanatics. And also the message there is, during the COVID-19 pandemic, we need a social distance. We need to take precautions so we can have sports back. Because obviously, us as American sports consumers, we are extremely passionate about our teams, and life without sports does not fit right, and that's what ESPN is trying to portray here. So I really loved how they did these powerful commercials to ignite sports audiences. Then the article goes on to talk about how the ESPN season got postponed, which was devastating for all basketball fans and just sports consumers in general. So an interesting statistic is that the last week ESPN was airing, professional baseball games and NBA games. They were averaging 1.04 million viewers in prime time, which is, 7 to 8 p.m. when everyone's off work or done with school, everyone's at home watching their teams play. So ESPN quickly in the following weeks dropped to 647,000 views, and then all the way down to 550,000 views on average, which was not usual for ESPN, and obviously everyone's watching the national news, and, not everyone's going to sit there and watch SportsCenter say the same thing over and over again. So the ESPN was quickly, we got to have a new game plan. We've got to figure out stuff to program on national television so people can tune in and really, get their eyes glued to the TV. And then that came The Last Dance, the 10-part documentary series on Michael Jordan and the Bulls teams in the 90s, which really, really, people were tweeting about it like it was a live sporting event every single Sunday night. I remember me as a former college basketball player and just a basketball freak, I was super pumped when I found out they were announcing this. I know a lot of the professional NBA players were pushing for it as well. Obviously, they know that ESPN had this, stored and made, and they were waiting to start showing it live. And then they quickly realized that, every Sunday night we can get tons and tons of viewers because Michael Jordan, arguably one of the best athletes of all time. So ESPN presented this Last Dance. It was I think 2 episodes every Sunday night, so a 5-week thing, and it brought in a lot of viewers. They put promotions over it, every single night, promoting it, and everyone was super fired up about it. And this allowed for ESPN to also do their other advertisements while this is playing because so many people are watching. So that's how they adapted to the NBA being postponed. Another thing ESPN has been doing is they've been playing prominent reruns, games that people will never forget and people have emotional attachments to. So this is the advertisement that ESPN put up for a Throwback Thursday College Football Classic. It's the Texas versus USC game. And everyone knows this game is one of the best college football games of all time. So ESPN thought, we don't have any live sporting events going on right now, but if we advertise this and really push it on to people, they're going to sacrifice their Thursday nights and, relive that one night that happened in 2006. Whether you're a USC fan or a Texas fan, every college football fan or just American sports consumer was super pumped up about this. I remember being on Twitter again and people were tweeting like it was a live game, so a lot of emotional attachment to that. And then after The Last Dance was over, it obviously got put on ESPN Plus, which requires a subscription. So they were like, we're going to release more 30 for 30s that are, unseen television events, and ESPN would put them out on Sunday nights. So they started off with Lance Armstrong, which was a 2-weekend deal. So a Sunday night, and then the Sunday night right after that, a week later, they did part 2. So you tuned into part 1 and you were super eager to see part 2, but you had to wait the next week, and that's what kept people around, kept people tuning in. So 30 for 30 documentaries that haven't been aired yet and were probably going to be released way later were being released now because we don't have live sports, and this is how ESPN marketing is adapting. Then they showed the long gone summer. It's a 30 for 30 on Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire. This was marketed and advertised very well as well. And I remember I've tuned into every 30 for 30 live just because I'm a sports fanatic and anything is going to get me through, And in the NFL draft, this was a massive, massive airing for ESPN. So which really shocked me is that it set viewership records, and it was all virtual. I remember the experience that the viewers had by watching this in their living rooms with their families was unreal. You could see the draft picks. You could see the guys getting drafted live in their living rooms with their families and what environments they were in, and it was kind of more meaningful in my opinion, in their own home with all the people they love, everyone that's been there since day one supporting them, and they get their name called and you get that live footage of them with their people. It's really cool. And here's Roger Goodell. He was featured all night, obviously, as the commissioner in his home, his little NFL draft setup, and they would go to the NFL analysts in their homes with their cameras, and then they'd switch over to the coaches and show their setup. So it was really behind-the-scenes look at what goes down throughout the NFL draft process. And like I said earlier, I was surprised it set viewership records, but after reflecting on it, it was just a really cool thing what they did here. So at the end of the day, the viewership records aren't that shocking to me anymore because ESPN marketing did a great job of promoting the NFL draft, saying we're still doing it. Don't worry, we're going to give you an experience to remember, and NFL football fans were not disappointed. So how I would navigate the issue, my thing on marketing for ESPN is that, after a certain time, all they do is play the same reruns of, Sports Nation or First Take, NFL Live, all those, shows. Once they air live, they're just going to keep rerunning them. Same with SportsCenter. So most people aren't going to, be glued to ESPN throughout the day during times like this because, frankly, there's not any live sports to talk about. So these shows aren't having the same viewers, the same numbers of people tuning in. So I think that every Monday night they could, air the most popular Monday night football games ever played. And people could, go back to every Monday night being really attached to that game with nothing else on, just that one football game. And, all those games have always been on ESPN. So they could easily play those old games that people are, passionate about, whether it's the Brett Favre game after his father died and threw all those touchdowns, or the Hail Mary with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, there's so many great, epic NFL Monday Night Football games that they could rerun on Monday nights, and they could really promote it and advertise it, and people would be excited just because it feels like the football season again, and we need sports. And, this article goes into depth about sports are an escape, and we shouldn't take it for granted. So it kind of ties in social distancing and taking precautionary measures because we really love our sports in this country and we need them back badly. And then another idea I had was featuring a Way Back Wednesday. I was thinking you could change the sporting event every week, either at the collegiate level or professional, and just do games that, millennials and our generation aren't that familiar with. And The Last Dance really drove me to dig deep into the 90s basketball. And it'd be awesome for every Wednesday for them to show, a college game from the 90s or an NBA game, and then go to college football or college basketball, early 2000s, stuff like that. So Way Back Wednesday, they could really promote that, show these old games that people haven't forgot about but haven't really thought about in a long time. So that'd be cool, if your favorite team and one of the most memorable games that you haven't even seen in so long is aired live for everyone to see. That'd be really cool, and I think a Way Back Wednesday feature would really ignite sports fans. And then my conclusion. So I included a quote in this from Laura Gentile. She's the Senior Vice President of Marketing for ESPN. So this was in early April, right after the pandemic really got bad and the NBA got shut down, as well as the MLB. So with all these new programs being shown on ESPN, their marketing team had to adapt quickly because they had marketing plans scheduled for these massive NBA audiences. And, as we've learned earlier in the semester in this course, these marketing plans have to be set in stone, and it takes a lot of time leading up for them to be implemented correctly. So this ESPN 185-member marketing team, they had to rapidly adjust to the changes in ESPN programming, and they worked extremely hard to do it. I loved these commercials and ads trying to unite us as American sports consumers. So the ESPN marketing team's done a pretty good job, in my opinion, and I've really enjoyed their documentaries and old games they've been showing. And I'm going to show the article. This is my reference. It's the article I chose. So I really enjoyed this article from the Wall Street Journal, and I loved reading about how ESPN adapted. So thank you for your time, and I really appreciate it.